Welcome back, everyone. Hope you've been enjoying our conference today. We have another great presenter right here. We have GATC Health. It's a private company, and through its advanced AI platform, it's accelerating, optimizing, and de-risking drug discovery and development, in turn, creating safer and more effective therapeutics in record time. Please welcome its COO, Tyrone Lamb, and the Chief Marketing Officer, Preetaman Wadhwa. Welcome.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Good to be here.
All right.
So, we're very excited to share with you some information about GATC Health. We are as was mentioned, we're an advanced drug discovery company. We've invented a advanced AI platform, which can take in a tremendous amount of data, and it accelerates the drug discovery process. We're actually doing this today. We're a privately held company. We're making a whole bunch of announcements here, and we're happy to share the news with you about what we're doing. So the big problem, as you may have heard, as far as the biotech or the drug discovery industry, is you have a $200 billion industry, and it takes about $1 billion in over 10 years to discover a drug, and well over 90% of those fail. And Preetaman, with her background, can give you more detail on that. So you have a big problem where drugs are taking a very long time to get to market. They're very costly, and the risk to get to that end result is extremely high. So our company, we've invented AI technology that's actually quite mature technology. It's actually being used. We've announced already one drug discovery process around cocaine addiction, and we're working on many more. So basically what we can do with our technology is we can shorten the time frame for pharmaceutical companies to discover drugs. So if you think about the magnitude of the opportunity there, with the number of drugs that are failing, if we can help small, medium, and large pharmaceutical companies discover more drugs faster and more efficiently, there's all kinds of value that can be created. Just to give you a little more background of the company before we get into some of the specifics of how we're doing it, today is, as was stated earlier, we are a privately held company. We do have the opportunity for people to invest, individual investors to invest using a Reg A Plus offering. The slide that you see on the website there's a link. You can go to our website, which has links to portals to get more information there. We also have a 506C Reg D offering for qualified investors, which has some additional warrant coverage on that. And we can get into that more deeply if you'd like. To give you a little more insight about where we are as a company, because of the reaction we're having all along the whole spectrum from the entire drug discovery and validation process, we have a tremendous set of advisors, which I can talk about a little bit later, who have gotten under the hood, if you will, and are helping us accelerate this whole process. We've had, at this point, about 8 of the top tier 1 banking firms have already met with us in the last 90 to 120 days. We're in discussions with all of them. That gives you an idea of the interest that we're having. And of course, they're looking at all different ways to monetize the company and grow the company and support us in that effort. So we're very excited about that. Real quick on the how. So think about it this way. The way drugs are discovered today, they do use artificial intelligence. You may have heard of the term AI gap. So AI gap is created because the way other AI companies or other technology companies are discovering drugs or trying to accelerate the process, they're basically taking the way that drugs are discovered traditionally and accelerating that reductionary process along the way. It's a very siloed way of doing it. What we've invented at GATC Health is, we think for the very first time, we've duplicated or created a digital humanoid. So we have replicated, using technology and a tremendous amount of data, not just genomic data or genetic data, but all other kinds of biological data. And we have been able to replicate what a human body how a human body would respond, both from a disease and from a therapy standpoint or a drug discovery standpoint. So you can just logically think about how it would be much more efficient to discover drugs, to actually isolate the source, the true source of the disease, and find the actual source or match of the drug molecule, doing that in a human environment it just makes tremendous amount of sense. So based on that, we've made two announcements. One is we've announced that we have discovered a molecule for cocaine addiction, which we think has broader applications. We're very excited to talk more about that in the future, as well as others. And we're working with a number of partners in that process. One I'd like to highlight, which is Liquid Biosciences. Patrick Lilly, who is their CEO, has also become an advisor to our company. Patrick has worked with 8 of the top 10 pharmaceutical companies, 3 of the top 5 research institutions. He has well over 150 biomarker discoveries under his belt. So he's worked with a number of major AI firms, and he, after learning what we're doing and doing a couple of projects with him, he has decided to work directly with us. So great validation from Patrick. So just to summarize this, is we have a platform. It's actually technology that has been in some form of use for about 8 years. We have, over the last couple of years, we've acquired that company. We broadened it, repurposed that technology. The original technology and science team is still a part of that project. We brought in folks like Priedemann to productize what we're doing. We have great relationships in place. We've got the proof in place. So now the next step is to go out and create a lot of revenue for everyone, and hopefully solve a lot of problems around disease and help a lot of people live longer. So I'm going to pause there, and Priedemann, if you can jump in and give a little background and talk about the drug discovery process, please.
Thank you, Ty, for that excellent overview of GATC Health. This is an absolutely incredible and the right time for us to be out there trying to solve problems that pharmaceutical industry has been dealing with for decades. More than before, I feel pharmaceutical industry is under so much pressure and challenge that many of us already know when it comes to the innovation that is needed, the complexity and sophistication of science, and the revenue generation that stakeholders expect. In midst of that, what they are exploring are alternate ways of where innovation is going to come from small pharma and other sources. But the fundamental issue of what the process that they follow has not changed. And if we could, like Ty said, take those 10 years of time frame that it takes to generate a single successful drug in the marketplace, the $2.6 billion that it takes of investment to get to that revenue generation space, if all of that can be brought down, that fundamentally shifts what the process today is and makes it revolutionary. And GATC Health has the promise of delivering that because we have validated that in our work. And that's why we firmly believe that pharma industry and GATC Health can be the strongest partners to revolutionize discovery, development, and ultimately bringing drugs to the marketplace that will save patients' lives. I worked at a pharmaceutical biotech company over the last 17 years. And over these years, we dealt with several situations where either we have a mature portfolio and now we want to bring in a new drug, but the gap between developing that drug and bringing it to the marketplace is so long that we decided to walk away from this entire therapeutic area. Or we were in a situation where we launched an absolutely sophisticated new technology in skin cancer. The first one was in kidney issues. This is in skin cancer. We launched the first indication. It took us 7 years to come up with the next clinical trial, only to find out that the clinical trial failed. Hence, we walked away from melanoma. And then the third situation where it was anemia, our drug is selling in multiple billions of dollars, only 7 years after the launch, finding additional safety issues. As a result, in each of these situations, multi-billion-dollar therapeutic areas were impacted, the strategies impacted, and the revenues are impacted. Now imagine a world that in each of these situations, the time period could have been reduced for the gap that was in the nephrology space, that we could have assessed who's the right patient and the right disease in case of melanoma as we were bringing out our sophisticated technology and this drug out. Or in case of anemia, we had upfront figured out the safety signals and had that caution so that the patients can remain safe. These three scenarios are just an example what pharma deals with every day. And these three scenarios are the examples where GATC can come and deliver a very strong promise and value proposition. The way we will do that is by shortening the 10-year time period down to 4 to 6. How's that possible? That is possible because we can actually identify what is the right disease mechanism that can shut off the progression of the disease by identifying upfront 3 molecules in 3 months. And just to give you a comparison to what Ty was talking about with the AI gap, today that 3 months takes 4 to 6 years. Even with the sophisticated AI companies out there, they can shorten it to 1 to 2 years. We bring it down to 3 to 6 months. That is unprecedented. That sets the new benchmark. Like in my head, I always think of Apple Watch. Apple Watch did not look at what are the competitors doing and let me get a little better. They looked at what's the best out there that nobody else can beat. And I think that's how we are looking at this marketplace. Is that we take our technology and what's the best out there, and we're setting that standard. In addition to that, we are not coming out with 5,000 molecules in the discovery phase like our competition or like what pharma is doing today to take to preclinical only to find that 0.0001% chance exists of that drug to be successful. No. What we are focusing on is we are upfront understanding the disease carefully. We are designing the molecule, the drug that will fit the disease and shut that mechanism so that that disease doesn't progress. And that brings us so focused that with the 3 molecules that we've identified, we can tell which disease to go for, which population will it be most effective, and what effect can be seen both in case of efficacy and safety because we have generated a human-like environment. We've taken data from proteome, multiomic sources and created what today human body should act like in its biochemical form. And when these stimulants, these disease issues come in and the target comes in, we map out what those characteristics and pathways are, how to shut that down, and not only as a static way, but in a very dynamic way. We have a feedback loop, which helps us identify upfront which are the diseases we can target with this molecule, how can we modify this molecule, and what other diseases can the same molecule or pathway help us generate. And all of this helps us shorten the time period that is involved in ensuring that we get a successful drug in the hands of pharma to take in humans in the clinical testing. Even before a human has touched it, we can tell what the risk and we can de-risk it. And that is absolutely unprecedented and very, very exciting for us. And that's the reason why we are getting so much interest from the banks to partner with us. We are getting interest from pharma to partner with us as well, because along with offering the closing of the AI gap that exists permanently, along with anchoring on diseases that will help us achieve the unmet need that exists in the patient lives, we are also able to have a platform that is disease agnostic. At this point, we have validated our platform across psychiatric, oncology, metabolic diseases, and we continue to grow. And that's why pharma is getting very excited and wanting to understand us more and partner with us so that we can eliminate the decade-long problem that they have had, which has impacted what their net present value of their assets is, what therapeutic areas and portfolios they are growing in, and what the internal rate of return is. Along with this, another unique identifier for value proposition from GATC Health standpoint is the fact that we can offer end-to-end services. What Ty and I have talked about mostly is the drug discovery. Let's figure out what the disease is, how it works. Let's figure out what the drug should be and match them. We can synthesize these molecules unlike other companies. And in addition to that, we go beyond. It's not only about drug discovery, but we have capability of the preclinical testing and the animal testing, which is embedded in this 3 to 6 months that we talked about. We have capability of partnering with pharma during the clinical trials setup of 1, 2, and 3 to ensure the right patient is being selected, the right protocols are being set up to maximize the chances of success and can continue that partnership. In that whole forum, we partner with pharma to tell them what is the disease they should focus on, how they can bring their life cycle management upfront and plan multiple trials so that the chances of success is manyfold. We can look at what their failed drugs have been and repurpose them in the marketplace. And at the same time, like I said, they're looking at different ways and sources of innovation. As they go to small pharma, for 70% of innovation right now, we can vet for them upfront whether the drug that they're going to invest in billions is worth the disease and the mechanism that is being promised in the initial trial results that they have, just by passing it through our patented AI technology that can mimic the human-like environment and tell them whether what the chances of this drug's success are. So our offering is end-to-end, which is extremely unique. And the last thing I would want to add is the part of the validation and the proprietary data. Today, one of the biggest challenges that AI has is the data set. The data set that's needed is supposed to be a multifactorial, multi-omic data, and a very large, high-quality data is needed. That's where many other companies have limitations. We, on the other hand, not only have a very significant database to begin with, but through our secondary business model of getting the predictive data reports, we are continuously feeding new data in it, and that's proprietary to GATC Health, giving us an opportunity to work with billions of interactions that these diseases go through to ensure we can identify in that short time period the right drug that will solve the disease that the patient is dealing with. So that's, I think I've touched for you why we are at a very unique pedestal point of partnering with pharma, how our technology is different from the other companies that don't even come close, and why we are so excited to be here to take GATC Health and continue our promise for the industry. Ty, back to you.
Thank you, Preetam, and I appreciate that. And hopefully that gives you some insight from a 17-year pharma executive as to how this is transforming the way drugs are discovered. I like to think about the way our company is approaching this is, to me, to all of us here, this is inevitable. We have a system of drug discovery that, I don't think I'm overstating that it is broken. It is. We can't live in a world where it takes over 10 years to get a drug to market with such a high failure rate. And it makes sense to us that the only way to do that is to actually figure out how it really works inside the human body. And that's what our platform has done. I want to highlight a couple of things. One is, obviously, we have a limited amount of time. We have an amazing team here at GATC Health. I want to highlight Ian Jenkins, who is our Chief Science Officer, one of the co-inventors of this platform. He was one of the original folks on the Human Genome Project. It's fantastic to see him in the room with scientists across the board, across the globe, and they're lighting up, saying, "Wow, why hasn't someone thought of this before?" We have Jason Uffins, who's our Chief Technology Officer, has worked in top secret things as far as scale at the government, all through massive projects. Commercial projects at scale. He has built a platform that's capable of handling the science that Ian and his team have invented. Very scalable, very secure. Dr. Jonathan Lakey, who is Professor Emeritus at UC Irvine. He's got hundreds of publications, I think 500 publications under his name. He's a world-renowned speaker in terms of diabetes and metabolic conditions in general. Eric Mather, our Chief Innovation Officer, has well over 100 patents and probably that many papers in terms of plant genomics, and it goes on and on. You can go to our website to see our larger team. One last thing I would close on is another example of how our platform has made a major discovery is we announced just last week that we have discovered an entirely new way of potentially of predicting disease using what's called a lateral flow assay. You can go to the website and see the announcement. This is a $300 billion industry, diabetes is. And today, the way that you figure out if you have diabetes is you go get a diabetes test like A1C, and you'll figure out if you have diabetes. This is the first time that we know of, this is the first time that something's been discovered that actually can predict your risk of getting diabetes and even measure your progression towards diabetes. So literally every month that goes by, our platform is pulling out yet another discovery that we believe we can monetize with so many different partners. And I'll close by saying we're open for Q&A. If you have any specific questions that we can't cover in the Q&A today, because I'm sure there'll be a lot of them, go to gatchealth.com. The website is on the screen. There's also an investor link if you want more information on that. And we're happy to, at this time, to answer any questions you may have.
Great. Thank you both so much. We do have a bunch of questions for you with a short amount of time. So let's jump right on in. Vicky Johansson asks, is your tech platform for in-house use, or do you license this to other manufacturers?
That's a great question. The answer is all of the above. We will not license the IP. The IP remains in-house. Plus, we know how to use it. But right now, we're using it to partner with other companies to do drug discovery, to develop other products and services. So we can partner with anyone who's in that process that needs that type of AI. Yeah.
Great. Juju Ellis says your technology is amazing. So now from an investor's perspective, at current Reg A prices that want to see revenue growth drive higher valuations ahead of a potential listing, is the technology going to be made available to drug development companies, large and small, or as a standalone revenue-generating asset for GATC only?
Pritaman, would you like to take that one?
Yes. So at the starting point, we envision that we'll be creating the drugs, partnering with large and small pharma companies. And then as the expansion continues, we'll be open for very flexible business models. Our overall goal is a long-term revenue generation. We don't want to just limit ourselves to bit pieces and small services. We want to partner with pharma and be a key component of their journey in innovation, drug discovery, development, and ultimately bringing the drugs to patients that need. And in that process, whether it is a beginning seeding fund, milestone fund, long-term royalties, we'll be exploring all options with pharma, and we're very confident to deliver across all therapeutic areas.
Great. James Harrison asks, is GATC Health involved in cannabinoid, phytocannabinoid, or psilocybin drug discoveries?
So we have not GATC Health directly, but we have there's a company called GATC Naturals, which is involved in that space. It's a separate company. The good news is 80% of that revenue rolls into GATC Health. And GATC Naturals has a license for the GATC Health platform for that market. And there's some amazing, go to our website, there's some amazing announcements already in that space.
Eugene Moreno asks, what is the valuation of the company for the offering? What percentage of the company are you selling? And can you explain the offerings? What are you selling at what price?
Yeah, I'll be very high level. The good news is all of those answers, because a Reg A Plus requires a tremendous amount of public filing. So those are all accessible. If you go to our website, there's links to the investor portals, which are off our site. So the Reg A offering is at $5 a share. We have approximately 40 million shares outstanding, so you can do the math, about a $200 million valuation. The details as far as the cap table, that's available offline as well. So yeah, that should answer the question. Yeah.
Great. Don Greer has a quick question. Is the company more of a technology company or a drug development company?
Great question. We love that question. We are a technology and science company, but we accelerate drug discovery. So right now we are discovering drug molecules. Our objective is to remain lean and mean and work with as many other companies to accelerate their drug discovery process. So we, as Pritaman says, we can play at the disease causal marker spot. We can play in the molecule discovery. We can play in the validation of that molecule. We can all the way up through the FDA process. It's really up to which the partner wants. We can play in every area. and add value in every area.
Great. Lisa M wants to know what your balance sheet and cash flow look like, sales, earnings, assets, and liabilities.
Again, great questions. I'll refer you, all of that information is on the public website. We just announced, I think the only one we have announced is a little over $1 million licensing deal that was put on the website. I don't think I'm saying anything out of school, saying more to come as far as licensing deals. The major impact for us is going to be as we're taking these drugs that we've discovered and creating partnerships. That's where the significant partnership. I want to emphasize something that Preetam said, that the model that's being used quite often in drug discovery, we're not creating a new business model. We're gonna add value and use the existing model, which is depending on how far along these drug discovery assets are, we will be paid a significant amount of money for the rights to those assets. And as those assets become further and further down the validation and FDA regulation approval spectrum, that value goes up. And then there's an opportunity, a real opportunity to take a percentage of those revenues as those drugs go to market. The reason that's even more exciting to us is because we're increasing greatly the chances of that drug going to market and being efficacious for the disease and shortening the time frame. So that model that's used in the industry, it's like we're rocket fuel to that model.
And if I can add to that, if we look at some of the deals that have happened, it's all within the range of many $1 million as the seeding fund, at least 100 to 150 million per drug that pharma is giving to AI companies. And we will be in a situation we are already able to create 3 to 5 drugs a year. We can double, quadruple that every single year. So you can imagine the revenue potential there. And then the ongoing royalties and milestone-based royalties are an upside from there.
Last quick question from Sean Campbell. Have you been endorsed by any major companies yet?
Well, the only one we can talk about right now is the one we've announced, which was Liquid Biosciences. Check them out. So I'd mentioned their CEO, Patrick Lilly. Patrick sits on, I think he's the co-chair, but he sits on the federal government's AI task force and blockchain committee. So his company, the CEO of Liquid Biosciences, has partnered with us for that first part of the biomarker discovery, finding the disease target. So that's the first one I would mention. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we have a few more questions for you, but we're out of time. So please join us again with some updates. And thank you so much for your time and your presentation.
Our pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, everyone, stay with us as we transition to the next presenter. We'll be right back.
Very good.